Yana, welcome to the podcast. Super excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, no worries. So I'm going to just start off with a question. Do you go to college?
Yes, I do.
You do go to college. What do you go to college for? Or what are you studying?
I'm currently in the Masters program for counseling for my LPCC.
Okay. Next question is, did you go to college possibly for 2 years not knowing what you wanted to be?
Spot on. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I bet a lot of our viewers or listeners can probably find themselves in those shoes where they're going to college. They have no idea what they want to be. So what is it that you do?
Right now, I work as a social worker.
Okay.
For a home health agency.
Okay.
So a little more detail, I go to patients' homes and I evaluate them based on their needs and basically how we can help them from the home health agency.
Do you need a degree? Is this like a specialty? Are people in line for this job? Why does this job exist? You know?
Well, basically, I went into it because of my social science kind of emphasis in school, and also to get the experience to help me work with people. So when I do get my master's, I'm gonna be a better counselor. But I actually work under somebody else's social work license.
Okay.
And I would say it's not really sought out after, just because it's very, man, I can't really think of the word.
Difficult? I mean, I know it's difficult to work with people.
No, it's not that it's difficult. It is challenging, definitely. But it's more, it's not stable working for a home health agency.
Okay. Because
you're kind of working based on the referrals you receive versus kind of consistent.
Oh, okay. So your hours aren't 40 hours a week.
No. I basically make my own schedule based on the referrals I receive. Yeah.
The referrals you receive. Okay, so say you wake up in the morning, Wednesday morning, you wake up. How do you know when you're going to work that day, or do you know ahead of time?
So once I get a referral sent to me, I call the patient and schedule an appointment with them.
Okay.
So it could be 2 days out, a week out, like the next day. It's really based up to the client and up to me, kind of.
Okay.
And it's definitely not something people look to have when they're working for a full-time position. But for me, like while I'm in school, it's perfect.
Okay, that's nice. And you're saying it gives you the experience.
Yes.
Once you have your master's degree, you know, you have your degree, but you also have experience, which is invaluable.
Definitely.
What kind of experiences maybe have you had that maybe you could like to share with the listeners? I mean, I'm sure we're all humans. We all experience problems in our lives. And so what are some interesting stories that you've had that you had to work with?
That's a really good question. I would say most of the patients I see, it's always interesting because, you know, you get to interact with somebody you don't know and learn more about them. So one pretty cool story I would say happened pretty recently is I met one patient who actually published a few books of his own, and he let me see them, which was so amazing and just like inspiring to see people being so motivated. And then there have also been several other people like you interact with, and you just see, I don't know, get some wisdom from them, which is really cool, and get to like learn more about their lives. Something I also really like, and just I feel like learn a lot from even just like learning how to talk to them.
Okay. So, I'm really trying to understand what it is you do for these patients or people, or why they even ask for an appointment. Like what kind of problems these people have, or do they just need to talk to somebody?
Yeah, no. So basically, when they get admitted to the home health agency, they're admitted because they need extra help. So instead of staying with medical, I'm like a medical social worker, so clarify that. But basically, instead of staying at the hospital for like an extended period of time, they get sent home, and then they'll just have a nurse come by every week, and like a physical therapist or something like that. So it's really helpful for them because they get to stay at home, and then get the care they need. And as a social worker, I basically just make sure they're getting, you know, the appropriate care. Like they have a caregiver in place, they have transportation, they have food, so that they're not, you know,
Okay,
being
so
neglected.
That makes sense. So pretty much you're making sure that they're taken care of. Nobody's neglected.
Yeah.
Are these people that have private insurance? Are these people that have state-funded insurance?
Yeah. So it varies.
Okay.
There's a lot of people do have state-funded insurance, but then there's some who have private who don't qualify for that.
Okay.
And their services also vary based on the insurance they have and what their insurance covers.
Got you. So you're a medical social worker.
Yes.
I mean, I've
That's
heard
more
of
specific.
I've heard of social workers, and hopefully we'll get a couple more on the podcast because I know there's different things that they do.
Yeah, most of them work with the children, so that's why it's a little different.
CPS and stuff like that. Okay. So why did you decide to go into social work or counselors? No. I mean, I never, like in school when we had a counselor. When you're going to college, you go see your counselor.
Yeah.
I never found that like, ooh, I want to become a counselor. This looks fun.
Yeah, actually, for my first 2 years of college, I have not seen a counselor, so I wouldn't even say that like I thought about what a counselor is a lot, but it was more of the psychology aspect that interested me a lot. And like you were saying, for 2 years you're kind of going to school and getting the general education when you're like kind of looking for what you want to do. And to be honest, I kind of pushed psychology aside a lot just because I was like, oh, there's a lot more stable jobs. There's, the medical field, which is like
good paying,
security,
benefits,
right? Amen.
Right.
But I think what kind of even led me to like be more open to it was even my Christian background and going on a few missionary trips and just like being more exposed to the different ways people live, and just having a desire to kind of help. I obviously that's like over that's a lot, like said a lot with like the social science field, but like in a way that obviously like I don't have a lot of answers myself, but just being able to have the knowledge to know like what it is that what it is that causes people to suffer and how I can help, and how I can reach out to other people and link them to things that where they can receive help. So when I started taking my general ed classes, what kind of like really was like a red flag for me was when I took my first psychology course, and it kind of really all just made sense for me. You're like, something clicked and you're like, this is what I want to do. Yeah, I get it, and like I love it. And then the more class, I began to take more and more classes. Yeah. And I just became really passionate about it. So
let me guess. I might be right. I might be wrong. You went on a couple of missionary trips. Yeah. You saw people in need. You saw people mentally probably ill, physically ill, just desperate, depressed. And you were probably thinking, man, this is crazy. I have no idea how this is happening, and I wish I could help these people. You take a psychology class. Okay. Go ahead.
It's a little bit different than how you say it, because I can't say I saw a lot of cases of like extreme helpless people and like like depression and stuff like that. I think it was more of like, just even like the interest in like why people do what they do, and like why this happens to people and like things like that. Like maybe not so severe, but just like the like human behavior, like
human behavior.
General.
I used to like to sit in the library actually in college and just like watch people study, or I found that fascinating. Maybe that's weird, but I found it.
I understand.
Like people watch that's normal.
Yeah, that's my life.
So you saw these things, then you took a psychology class, and you're like, wow, this is why this, and this is why this makes so much sense. I know how it could be effective.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And then like even with the whole field itself, it's so broad. I know like counseling is one aspect, but I think there's like so much more you can do just with the knowledge itself and how you can apply it just to your everyday life, which is what I think amazes me the most about this field, is even like knowing like what would be best for me to do like in my career versus just like going for a certain career.
So if everybody took a psychology class,
Amen.
It would make them better to understand how they could deal with themselves.
Yeah, and who they are as a person and why they should do what
sometimes we do a lot of things because we don't know how to deal with them.
Yeah, exactly.
And when we know how to deal with some issues,
or we're just influenced by like certain factors that we're not aware of.
Yeah.
And kind of just go into whatever, and then realize later on down the road it probably wasn't the best decision.
That makes sense. Yeah. I met a couple social workers that went into the social work just because they grew up no, I know this isn't your case, but they grew up in a family of like problems and a lot of behavioral issues, and they're like, and then somebody helped them, and they're just like, man, I really know how I could help other people.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think that's the case with most even psychology majors or like counseling
professionals.
Like, professionals. That is the case, and it makes a lot of sense why somebody would want to do that.
Yeah, once you know the answers, you're like, wow, I could make a difference, and definitely. I get paid for it. It's a job. So, somebody listening or watching, maybe they're in high school, maybe they're in college. They're like, well, I want to become a counselor or a social worker. What classes, what prereqs, or where do you apply? How do you start? How did you find out about this?
Yeah, so I mean, like going back to my Sierra college days, like taking the psychology courses, I'm like, okay, so I do want to be a psychology major, and then you kind of go into a university like Sac State or wherever else you want to go. Sac State's not bad if you live in Sacramento area, just because it has a good psychology program. I know people tend to want to move away, but that's not always the best idea. Just saying that.
At least
just
in
save
this
some
case,
money or whatever.
Yeah.
But and also you do want to kind of see what your options are in terms of career and like what you're going to be doing for a living, because like, to be honest, again, the majority of people who do get like the psychology degree and end up going a little further, like let's say for Masters of Counseling, you have to they might not like envision that in the beginning, just because if you're like me and you're going into it for like the psychology part of it and just the interest in human behavior, and like you might not see yourself as a counselor, let's say, like, you know, just working for an agency and helping people who like you maybe aren't even qualified to help so much. But I mean, I think you like be like, inform yourself on what it is you will be doing, and then what steps you can take to do what you actually do want to do. Like even there's like a research aspect to it. If you're interested in that, there's like definitely classes you can take and like connections you can make with certain people and go into that part of it. Or and like,
then obviously maybe talk to your counselor at school.
Oh, definitely talk to your counselor too, and talk to your peers and talk to professors a lot. I think that's what helped me out the most, and something that I was the most scared to do, but then I realized that did help me out the most.
Talking to your professors.
Yeah, and then you could go into academia, become a professor, other things like that. There's a lot more to psychology than what a lot of people settle for. And I'm just talking to like those that are more like me, I guess I should say. But definitely a rewarding field, even the counseling part of it, and just like the experience of working with patients. You definitely do learn a lot just with that part of it too.
That's awesome. Well, check this out. I want to thank you so much for coming on. And after you get your master's degree, you get some awesome job maybe that you've always dreamed about. We would love to have you back on.
Oh yeah.
Follow up, see where you ended up, you know, where your journey has taken you, the new experiences you've had. And so thank you.
Thank you. This is so fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you had a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I feel like so cool.
This is awesome. So again, guys, thank you for joining. This was Yana Katsura. She is a psychology major, a counselor, master's in counseling. Maybe you'll find her in one of your counseling classes.
Yeah, if you have problems,
give her a call. Call the number below.
Yeah.
Joke. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.